Okay, welcome back, everybody. Today is Wednesday. Just want to point out a few things, see where we're at in the class here. So we're in a week of the 24th through March 1st. We're working in Chapter 6, developing new products and services. The goal is to get through this chapter today. If not, we'll finish up a few slides on Friday. Um, I also want to point out that everyone should be working on their entrepreneurial marketing plan. And now that we're about at midterm and halfway through the semester, everyone should be through about half of their project by now. Also, this entrepreneur exercise, I just want to remind everyone that this is going to be due Sunday, March 8th, so we still have a little bit of time on that. Um, but last week's for Chapter 5 is going to be due this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So just make sure that everyone gets that in, because remember, I do not accept late work. Um, and also, in regards, you can see here, midterm exam. Next week, we have our midterm exam and project updates. So the midterm exam is going to be next Wednesday. So everyone know that. So we're going to be covering chapters 1 through 6. There will be more details on Friday of the exam. As of now, it's looking like it's going to be an essay format exam in either 10 to 12 questions, something of that sort, but I'll be giving a detailed review on Friday. And then we'll finish Friday in the lab. And Monday we'll have a lab day / review day as well to work on the whatever you all feel is pertinent. The entrepreneur exercises, you can review for your midterm or work on your entrepreneurial marketing plan. So that's just where we're at right now. Just want to make sure everyone knows that we do have a midterm exam next Wednesday, and it does cover chapters 1 through 6. So everyone needs to know that you do have to come to class to take this exam. This is a hybrid class. The lecture, if you signed up, you can watch it from your house. But for the exam, you must come to class to take the exam. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get back into chapter 6 and pick up where we left off on Monday. On Monday, we left off with idea generation. So now we're going to move into the screening and evaluation. So the purpose of this stage is to effectively kill bad ideas and remove them from further consideration. So obviously, through screening and evaluation, we want to pick out the good apples from the bad ones, pretty much. Pick the projects or the services that we think is going to be successful, that we think there's a demand for, and move forward with those. And the ones where the customers weren't really too fond of what the idea was, and we want to kind of shoot those down. This is typically done through formulating a checklist. That checklist usually entails the advantage of the product or service over competing alternatives, whether it delivers value to the customer, whether there's a demand for the product or service, and whether it can be profitable. So obviously, I think all these bullet points pretty much is self-explanatory whether or not you should move forward or stop, at this point. If it delivers value to the customer, obviously, then chances are it's going to be profitable and be a success. And obviously, there needs to be a demand for it. And we obviously have to have some type of advantage over our competitors. So if we feel that all of these things are kind of moving in the right direction, then it'd be a good idea to move forward and get through the screening and evaluation. There's an external approach where you can actually go into the market and solicit feedback from target customers. And I think we've talked about the external approach. That's how you collect your primary data. So at this stage, obviously, we can use the concept statements where we actually make questionnaires, and we've went through that already. We know how that works. We can give the customers a written description or mock up the product or service and have them answer questions about the mock-up. So just have them answer questions about, what they like about our product or service, some things they dislike, what maybe they would like to see in it, stuff of that sort. So everyone knows what the external approach is. You can do the targeted interviews, the in-depth interviews, or you can do the focus group, stuff of that sort. The fuzzy end techniques and all that stuff. Ideas that survive the screening and evaluation stage will move to the business analysis stage. In this stage, the concept undergoes detailed product, marketing, and financial scrutiny. So here we're going to examine the cost of the development and the market, forecast demand and revenue, and determine the profitability. Obviously, I think everyone knows what doing the business analysis is. And like I said here, the main focus here is obviously product marketing, financial scrutiny. Obviously, we want to focus on the product here because we're still developing it. So we really want to make sure that we're including it within our good or service everything that we found within our primary and secondary data. We want to make sure that we're trying our best to tailor it to the needs of our potential customers and our potential market segment. Marketing, obviously, once we have our product and we think that it's tailored right or it's complete, then we need to figure out how we're going to reach these customers. How are we going to let them know about our good or service? Are we going to use television ads, newspaper or social media, whatever the platform might be. Determine the profitability. Obviously, we have to know what our profitability is going to be, because if we're going to try to raise capital, which is going to be the chances or be the case 9 times out of 10, then we have to be able to show that we're going to be profitable. And so obviously with all these things tied together, that's going to make up the bulk of the business analysis. Next, we'll move into the development stage. So obviously, if the idea survived the business analysis stage, we'll move into the development stage. This is actually where the concept comes to life and a prototype is created. Obviously, if we're developing our product, then we're building it, and that's where it's actually coming to form or coming to life. And if you're customer focused, then developing a prototype should be easy. Follow the wants and needs of the customer. I just love how the author just makes it seem like everything's just so easy, I mean, obviously the concept of it is pretty easy. You just try to fulfill whatever the needs are, the missing needs of the customer. But in all reality, that's hard. That's a hard task to accomplish. You can even have the customer test your prototype, develop product or service name, branding, and marketing mix during this stage. So obviously, if we're developing our product, then the marketing mix is going to be important. The name and the branding, obviously, that's all coming into play in developing it. We're gonna design what the brand's going to look like. Like for instance, Nike has their swoop, Reebok has their little line with the slashes going through it, stuff of that sort. So that's all going to be taken care of during the developmental stage. Market testing is next. In this stage, you'll take your product or service to test with realistic purchase conditions to determine if it will be bought. This provides a good surrogate indication of how the product will be received. It's important to know that during this stage, you can still redefine your product, because obviously we're going to see in the market testing, we're going to go and say, if we just go set it up, we say we have a local CVS or something, and we're wanting to do some type of a product that's usually sold within that CVS, then maybe we'll go to that local CVS and see if we can get permission to maybe put a little stand right there at the end of one of the aisles and just see how customers interact. Obviously, we can take that feedback to see if our product's ready to rock and roll. If it's really receptive, from the people, then maybe it's good to go. We don't need to tweak anything. But if we're seeing, a lot of people complaining about the same thing, then maybe we want to alter our design a little bit. So, market testing is a great thing. We can gain an indication of potential sales. Obviously, if people are really hot after the item, then obviously we can project a pretty good amount of sales. And it allows you to check the elements of your marketing mix. So, is the price right? Are we promoting it right? What about the place? Is this the right location where we need to have it? So stuff of that sort. We can actually see if the marketing mix is right, because maybe it's not CVS. Maybe we need to be at the mall and set up in the middle, and where those little pop-ups are, instead of just in a CVS thing, or just whatever, a gas station, whatever it might be. So market testing obviously is very important. We have different types of market testing. We could have a simulated market, and this is a full-scale market test, but is limited in a limited fashion. So, for example, it'd be done in a mall. So, just go in there and set up a little stand, or just stop people like we talked about, and have them give them their thoughts or their insight on your product. Virtual reality market test. Entrepreneurs create virtual markets and ask customers to participate. Obviously, this can be much less expensive and extremely flexible. I think everyone here knows what virtual reality is. You can set it up in a virtual, like it says, the name says it all, virtual marketplace. So then people can go in and actually see, you can see their tendencies and their characteristics. And it's nice here, like I said, it's less expensive because once you set up that virtual marketplace, then you're good. You can just allow people to enter into it and participate. And obviously, it's more flexible because you usually can do it from wherever you are. You just have to access into that virtual place. Some entrepreneurs choose not to test market, mainly because they don't want competition to have an insight on what they're doing. You know, maybe they feel their product or service is so superior and such a good product or service that there's no need to even test it because all that's going to do is just give away their ideas. So that's one of the main reasons why they might forego market testing. Intangible product services are much more difficult to test. So obviously we know what intangibles are. They lack a physical substance. So obviously they're going to be more difficult to test just by nature. And then expensive items like big items like airplanes and vehicles and stuff are obviously more difficult to test as well. I think if anyone's ever bought a vehicle before or test drove a car, I think you get to see they got to make sure that you have your license and do all that. There's checks and balances you have to go through when you're trying out a larger item, one of specific identification, I guess you could say. Um, Next is launch. So obviously, if the product or service has passed the market test, then it's time to launch, right? Obviously, if all things are good, then we need to go ahead and launch this product and see how it performs. And obviously, launch means rolling out the new product or service to the market on a full commercial scale. So we're ready to rock and roll at this point. Like the reason why we're in business has now come to fruition, and we're ready to rock and roll. Those are customer centered and have a high likelihood of success. Obviously, you know, we keep repeating this customer centered focus here because, you know, obviously that's the name of the game. That's why we're here, is to try to serve the customers and serve society. Most costly stage of the process is going to be the launch stage, obviously, because if you think about it, while we've developed all this stuff like the good or the service, and if it's what it's supposed to be, now we have to duplicate it and make say if it's a tangible good, now we have to produce X amount of goods to be able to actually, you know, disseminate them out there and get them out in the different locations and actually put them in the stores. So, you know, we're going to have the cost incurred in inventory, you know, and then we're going to start paying our people because we're probably going to have to bring people in to help our function and help run our business model. And a lot of times, you know, depending on the agreement that we have with who's holding our goods on consignment, you know that might be the case. We're just having them on consignment. Maybe stores will actually buy them at the jump start and take a percentage of the sales. You know, however it might be. So these are all costs that we need to factor in. Obviously, it makes sense to why the launch would be the most expensive part of the process. Some entrepreneurs will choose to do regional rollouts. Obviously, it's better to stay kind of close and just work within a district or a region instead of trying to go within a state or within like an East Coast or nationwide. Because of cost, you know, you don't want to spread yourself out too thin, like we've talked about. Time to market is highly correlated with venture success. You know, speed is important, but also quality is as well. So obviously, we want to try to find that happy medium there. We want to, you know, move quicker than the competitors, but we also don't want to have a product that's going to be less, you know, less. I'm afraid I want to try to get that thing turned on. Yeah. So you know, you want to be fast to market, but you also want to bring a quality product to market as well. So entrepreneurs can choose between being the first mover or the late entry. Obviously, the first mover is more risky, but obviously there's better chance of higher returns, more rewards. So obviously it's more costly and for being the first to launch. Being a late entry, you wait to see how the first movers fare, and then obviously then you move in, and it's going to be a lot less costly because they've already paved the way. You know, they've already cleared the trail and laid the track. You're just following their lead. You know, and then making changes on the way. So first mover or late entry. Okay, so now we're through the 6-stage process of developing our product. So now we'll get into adoption and diffusion of new products and services. So adoption is the acceptance and continued use of new product or service by an individual. And there's going to be 5 stages of the adoption process here: awareness, interest, evaluation, trial, adoption, or rejection. So obviously we can see here the adoption process, these bullets make sense. Obviously, in order to adopt the product, the first thing is that people have to be aware that it even exists. You know, if the people aren't aware that your good or service is out there, then obviously they're not going to buy it because they're not going to even know about it, you know. So they have to be aware of it. And even beyond, you know, moving one step beyond being aware of it, just being aware isn't enough. We have to spark an interest. So if they're aware of it, something has to catch their interest, you know. And then once it catches their interest, you know, they're interested in that good or service, then they have to be able to evaluate it across the board with other goods or services of goods of the same like, so with homogenous goods, right? Um, so they want to evaluate it. And then after they think they might like your product, obviously they might want to try it out, right? So get a little free sample, like we said at Sam's, they hand out free samples in the high traffic times. Or, you know, maybe you want to go test drive a car, fill it out. Some dealerships might let you drive it for the weekend or something, let you see how it is. So just a lot of people like to test their product or service before going all in. Adoption or rejection, obviously, once they've went through the first 4 bullets here, or the first 4 stages, then they're either going to adopt the product or service or reject it. So obviously that's going to be the 5 stages in the adoption process. Customers do not go through the adoption process at the same speed. Obviously, I think everyone knows that everyone is different. We're all geared differently. Some people more so than others, you know. Some people are like other people. Some people are different. So obviously, people are going to react differently to goods and services. There will be various categories of adopters, since some customers accept new products and services earlier, and some accept them later than others. So diffusion. Diffusion is the manner in which customers accept new products and services, and the speed of the new product service adoption by various customer groups, or how the new products or services spread over time and across particular adopters. So pretty much diffusion is just your product being spread out among different groups and participants in different markets, and just how well it's being accepted and being used from different participants amongst society. So pretty much diffusion. I think that makes sense. Diffusion. If something is diffused, then it's being spread, right? So main thing here, just know people are moving at different speeds, right? So there's different life cycles because of people moving at those different speeds. So 5 categories of adopters. We have innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Okay. So the innovators account for less than 3% of the total market. I think that we know the innovators, as we said, these are going to be the discontinuing innovations, where people come in and like the car or the computer, something of that sort. So where it discontinues the previous way of doing something. Obviously, there's not many innovators. These type of things, like I said, on Monday don't happen very often. They happen over time. You know, it usually takes some generations or decades even for these new innovators to come up with stuff. So obviously, it's going to be the smallest segment of the total market. First to try new products and services. They're risk takers. They tend to have higher income and education levels than people in the other groups, and they do not rely on group norms. I believe it's easy to see that they don't rely on group norms because usually they're highly educated and have a pretty good means, you know, of supporting themselves. So they're really not concerned with what people think, because obviously they've reached that status by just sticking to their gut and just staying on the grindstone. So, you know, they keep their head focused. They get what they want. They achieve what they want. They don't care what people are doing outside of them. You know, they are the trendsetter. They're the innovators. Early adopters is approximately 14% of the total market, and they're going to make the purchase after the innovators, right? So the innovators are going to come up with this, or be extremely fast to be the first ones to buy the new product or service, even if they didn't create it. They're the very first ones to bring it to market, meaning the first ones to buy it. They're socially integrated and likely to be opinion leaders, used by later adopters as sources of information and advice. And adoption by innovators and early adopters is critical to venture success. So obviously, as entrepreneurs, we want to target these innovators and early adopters, because if you think about it, this ties in with like the cool kids, you know, the lead users, you know, the people that are the trendsetters. You know, if we can reach this market, then obviously if we reach this market and we get them on board, then it's like it has an effect. People will jump on the bandwagon. So then you're going to get those bigger segments of the industry or segments of the market. You know what I mean? If you get these early people, so that's the main key is to get the early adapters and the innovators. To get, and the rest will kind of follow suit. The early majority, approximately 34% of the total market, risk adverse. They take more time to consider the product or service, use more information to evaluate, so they're more cautious, and they enjoy the status of being the first within their peer group to have a product or service. So I think we can see how this kind of makes up 34% of it. You know, they're a little more risk adverse. You know, maybe they don't make as much money. They're not quite as educated, so they're a little more skeptical of what they're going to buy. Their money doesn't go as far. But at the same time, with that being said, you know, they're high enough. They're high enough on the status ladder, you know, in education and money to be able to be still the first within their social group to be able to set the trend. So obviously, you know how it is. If someone within your immediate circle group, say maybe in high school, you know, someone gets like a new set of shoes or maybe a new phone or whatever it is, you know, was the first one within that group, you know, everyone's like, oh man, that's cool. And next thing you know, a week or two later, other people start getting the same stuff. So, you know, everyone knows how that stuff works. So early majority, late majority, same percentage, 34% of the total market. And these tend to be skeptics. So only purchase when the product or service is widely available and widely popular. So now once, you know, like, so for the smartphone, they're probably going to wait 3-4 years, you know, so it's, you know, almost everyone has them. They see that it's tried and true. They've got their twerks or their tweaks out of the, you know, out of their design and all that stuff. So they're going to say, okay, you know, it's obviously it's tried and true. Let's go ahead and let's jump now. Purchase only once, risk is minimal. Adopt because of social pressure. So then they feel like, oh man, I got a flip phone. I need a smartphone. You know, everyone else has it. You know, everyone else is doing it. So I might as well do it. You got to love that peer pressure. You know, limited means. So only when the product or service is affordable. So the late majority, all these things kind of tie together. You know, their education's a little lower. They don't have the financial means, so they wait for the price to come down, because we know when new technologies and new goods and services hit, they tend to have a premium on the price. You know, so only certain people can buy them. So makes sense why the late majority. You know, if you have less money, then obviously you're going to be more skeptical. You're going to hold on to the legacy items as long as you can, or the items, you know, previously. And then the last category is the laggards, the little slow sluggards that come along. That's 16% of the total market. Obviously, this is going to be the last group to adopt. And the reason why they're gonna embrace the new product or service is because they have no choice. Because the other one's being discontinued, and they have no choice but to move on to the new platform or whatever it is. So they embrace new products and services reluctantly. Obviously, if they're only gonna change because the other thing is obsolete and no longer being sold or serviced, then obviously they're going to be reluctant to change. They're doing it because they have no choice. So lowest socioeconomic status, obviously. So the laggards are obviously going to have the lowest education and the lowest income as well. So not everyone will become an adapter or an adopter. Good to know. Sizable segment will never adopt to a new product or service. So don't assume 100% diffusion rate. You know, a lot of people want to say, "Oh, this product or service is awesome." It's just everyone's going to have it. You know, because it's not going to happen. You know. So a good example, the book says the ATM card holders. You know, seems like everyone would have a debit card, right? But that's really not the case. You know, at the time the book was published, there were still 20% of the American population that did not have a debit card. So, you know, I mean, obviously this is an older text, so, you know, I'm sure that the amount has dropped a little bit since then. But, you know, it just puts it into perspective of, you know, not everyone has not everyone has everything that you think that they will, you know. So that was actually kind of shocking to me. I didn't realize it was going to be, you know, 20%. I figured it'd be closer to 10%, because I know a lot of people use prepaid cards and stuff of that sort. So that's a good example. So as popular as an ATM card is, with all this technology and everything, you know, still not everyone has it. People are still using checks and other stuff. Some people might not even have a bank account, you know. So as an entrepreneur, um, you want the largest adoption rate in the shortest amount of time. Obviously, makes sense. The quicker people adopt your product and service, the more money you get, the more money you have to reinvest, the more you can spin off of that market and open a new market and just keep growing your successful venture. Um, so factors affecting the fusion: clear superior advantage. So obviously, if we have a clear superior advantage, then obviously it's going to diffuse quicker than what it would, and have a bigger reach than if we didn't have a competitive advantage. Competitive intensity. So how intensive is the competition in the industry? You know, I mean, if it's really competitive, then you might have as good of a diffusion rate. You know what I mean? Then again, you might have a better diffusion rate because it is competitive, and maybe you just outperform the competitors. You just don't know. Um, Product service standardization. That can have a direct effect on the diffusion rate, because a lot of times if you have a standard product that's simple to use and is tried and true and doesn't have all these extra bells and whistles on it, then a lot of times it can be, it can be trusted by the consumer, so that can help it diffuse quicker. Clear dissemination of information. So once again, there's no gray areas on your product. You know, everything's been transmitted to them. All the information all the relative information is there for them. Directions are clear and simple to use. Close relationships among channel members. So remember, we talked about talking with suppliers and distributors. So obviously, if we talk with them and we develop a good rapport with our suppliers and distributors and treat them well, then chances are they'll push our product and service, because it's helping them help me help you. And we can also, we can gain competitive advantage insights, like, learn critical information from these shippers and suppliers and distributors if they're willing to talk to us, about what the competition is doing. And so obviously, if we can find a weakness from the competition by these distributors or channel members, then we can ultimately tweak our product and then help it diffuse quicker. So greater commitment to research and development. So obviously, a lot of times, the book says a lot of times that entrepreneurs want to just skip the research phase and just get right to development. I think it's because a lot of times they get excited. They just want to make it happen and bring it to market. But a lot of times, and maybe a lot of it is too, is they just don't have the capital to do so much research. If they did too much research, then they couldn't move on to the development and never even be able to have a chance to bring their product to market. Whatever the reason is, it says that people tend to focus more emphasis on development instead of research. But you should spend more time and money on research and development equally, because the more time and effort and money you spend on research and development, the more chances are that you're going to get your product or service right the first time. So it's going to have a cost benefit. It's going to be a good cost benefit analysis or break even there. So really focusing on your research and development stage. With that being said, you still want to keep in mind that you still need to be timely with whatever you're researching and developing. So another good thing is research and development costs can all be expensed too. So that's nice, So you can obviously benefit. You can net it against your income if you have a successful venture. And obviously that lowers your income tax liability, which in fact lowers your income tax expense. So good thing. Research and development can be a great thing. Strategies to advance diffusion. Focus on one group of adopters at a time. So remember, we said don't chase too many apples, or don't chase too many whatever they said it was. Just focus on one. And then after you focus on that one group, then once you become successful, you can start spinning it off in different ventures. Zero in on innovators first. So we want to focus in, like it says, on one group of the adopters. Zero in on innovators. Like we said, we want to focus in on innovators and early adopters, because ultimately they're going to be the ones that set the trends and have the bandwagon effect that follows along. So we really want to hone in on those innovators first. Leveraging opinion leaders or leadership. So obviously we want to get into the heads of the opinion leaders. So we want to try to locate these opinion leaders in society or in the markets when we go out and collect that primary data. It is hard a lot of times to actually locate these opinion leaders or their opinion leadership. So a lot of times you can actually create one, and We know we've seen examples of that. How a lot of times they'll use celebrities or athletes to be the opinion leaders or to set the opinion on your product and service. um, Reach influential people on social media. So once again, we need to make sure that our reach is reaching the right people and not just the wrong people. So the influential people on social media, obviously, we know that if you get stuff going like a message or something that's popular on social media, you get a lot of likes and a lot of shares and everything. So it can really help get your message out there. So obviously we can see that this is all just strategies to help to advance getting our product or service out there. Managing your product or services over their life cycles. We have 4 stages in the product service life cycle. We have the introduction stage, the growth stage, maturity stage, and the decline stage. Obviously in the introduction stage of the product life cycle, we're going to be dumping a lot more money into research and development, a lot more money into bringing our products to the market, a lot more money on marketing, probably a lot of money. We're just going to be spending a lot more money, right? We're probably going to have a higher price during this stage. During the growth stage, we're going to start backing off our price a little bit and backing off the marketing because the message is starting to get out there. During that stage, we might tweak our product or service, to help align it to whatever the wants of or the demands of that segment is at the time. And the maturity stage, obviously, right here is when we're going to have a whole line of products. We don't just have that one product. We've created multiple products. We have a line of products because we're serving the late majority and the early majority during these different stages. So there, we're going to be spending less on marketing, and our price is going to be leveled out, and be spending more, on actual just focusing on what is our good services, what's profitable, and getting rid of the stuff that's really not, eliminating the lines that are. Same with decline. We're really going to be focusing on only the stuff that's profitable. We're going to be wrapping up marketing costs, and just trying to keep our main lines open because eventually, we know market segments come and go, right? And obviously, during these 4 stages of the product service life cycle, we're going to be seeing different stages of those adopters, right? The innovators, the early adopters. So obviously in the introduction, we want to be focusing on the innovators and the early adopters. As we move into the growth and the maturity, the growth, we're going to be trying to focus on those early adopters, right? Or the early majority, the 34%. We hope to be in that category, and so we're broadening our products, our goods and services, our different lines that we offer. Maturity, we're going to be in the late majority, you know what I mean? So in that 34%, kind of back and forth in the early, late majority. And obviously in the decline, then we're going to be in the laggards. So we're trying to be focusing on, just still squeezing out whatever products we can in that market, the high selling ones, while the demand's still there for it, within the laggards. So does that make sense how there's a direct correlation between the product service life cycles and the type of adopters that are out there?
Yeah.
How they relate? Okay. Managing your product services over their life cycles. The key strategies for effective management of new product service life cycles is modify the product or service, find new customers, and find new uses. So obviously, as the product life cycle continues to grow, we're hopefully going to have new customers. They're going to have different desires, different wants. So obviously, we need to keep tweaking or altering our product to keep it relevant, right? We can't just come up with, say, a PlayStation 1 and then just think once PlayStation 2, 3, and 4 continues to come out, Xbox One, whatever they might be, that your PlayStation 1 is going to be relevant, because it's not. You have to keep moving with the industry and the trends. That's why we should always be doing research and continuing to go out and see the way the trends in the society is moving, right? Because that way we stay relevant. So we want to modify the product or service. We want to find new customers. Obviously, we want a retention with our customer base as well, but we want to continue to grow that customer base. Because with finding new customers, obviously we can create new product and services, right, and keep expanding and growing. Find new uses for our product and service. The book gave a phenomenal example of baking soda. Baking used to be really big within households, but as we, as society moves to being entertained and leisure and being pampered and all this, baking's kind of went down. Now people tend to buy from bakeries and specialized shops and go out to eat and stuff. So as baking went down, the demand for baking soda went down as well. So what they did is started marketing it totally different and started saying, hey, well, let's keep our same product, but let's market it and make its use, make it a complete different intended use. So instead of using it just for baking, they started pushing it. You could use it, your baking soda and mix it with your peroxide as toothpaste, or you can use it as a deodorizer. You know what I mean? You can use it for the deodorizer within your refrigerator or your freezer to keep the moisture down. You know what I mean? Stuff of that sort. So they just recreated the main use of your product. So the perception of it. Yeah, they just changed perception. People might have already been doing it, like you said, but there's really no real difference in what it was. Like you said, they just changed people's perception on it. Oh wow, well, we can use it for this too. So just those are good strategies for keeping your product managed throughout its life cycle. So consider a different approach to new product service development. So problems with the 6-step approach: it takes too much time, costs too much money, treats all products and services the same, and linear and sequential. So the 6-step project we were just talking about, obviously, is the one right here. The idea generation, screening, evaluation, business analysis, development, testing, and launch. The ones we just went through, right? So obviously this is the most important, most tried and true framework you would use to bring a new product or service to life, right? But pretty much what they're saying here is it takes too much time if we follow that. It's too routine, it's too linear, it's straight in line, and it's sequential, so you can't move to the next step till you do this. I mean, that's going to bog you down and make you bottleneck up. You might lose a lot of good thoughts you might have for a later process if you're doing linear sequential, as far as moving through the process. Obviously it costs a lot of money, treats all product services the same. So what they suggest is do an iterative spiral approach, meaning like a hybrid approach pretty much. You just want to use some elements, don't use some elements. Maybe you want to work at the beginning stage, middle stage, and ending stage at the same time. Maybe you want to start at the end and move backwards, stuff of that sort. So you incorporate the concepts of speed, agility, parallelism, adaptability, flexibility, and scalability into the process. So pretty much all we're doing is saying here, we're going to make it a hybrid. We're going to tweak it and use it for however we see it, best fit. We're going to take your framework and we're going to put a spin on it to best suit our good or service for whatever we're trying to bring to market. So follow a rapid build, test, feedback, adapt, and reload approach. Done without the linear sequential approach. So obviously linear means it's going to be in a straight line and you have to do it in different sequences. So do not follow that. Kind of just hop around and just tailor it to your specific needs. So that's all for chapter 6. Is there any questions or concerns with any of the material that we covered?
I don't think so.
Everything's good? Okay, so I'm glad we got through that. I didn't think we were going to. So we're through chapter 6. Let's just go back here for one more second. So once again, midterm exam will be next Wednesday. We'll be reviewing for it on Friday, and maybe a little bit on Monday. But hopefully we'll have the whole review on Friday. So Friday and Monday we'll be spending as lab days and exam reviews. Okay, exam will be on Wednesday. And then Friday we'll do some project updates and another lab day after the exam, and have an easy day to just focus on trying to get ahead on that project. And then obviously the week after next week is spring break. So everyone please do your entrepreneur exercises, be working on your entrepreneur marketing plan, and start reviewing chapters 1 through 6, because all those 6 chapters will be on the midterm next Wednesday. That's all I have for everyone. I hope everyone has a good day. Thank you for your time, and I will see everyone on Friday.